light in the background.
Yes, ma'am. All the way.
Yes.
Okay, you can start us up.
Turn this up a little bit.
Right on. Good afternoon and Black Power to all of our melanated people watching this broadcast locally in Tulsa as well as around the globe. I am Miss Nikki, and on the behalf of Ray One, I want to welcome you to Black Business Spotlight, where we have the pleasure of interviewing local Black business owners, notable authors, and highlighting upcoming events taking place in Tulsa. Be sure you like and share today's broadcast because we are ecstatic to have Miss Amnoni Myers, distinguished and best-selling author of You Are the Prize.
Thank you.
Yeah, seeing yourself beyond the imperfections of your trauma. And I want you to know, in case you didn't know, she is a game changer right here in Tulsa.
Yes.
Yeah, right on. Thank you so much for joining us today, Amnoni. We're so thrilled to have you here. And I was sharing with Amnoni privately, and I'm going to share it publicly, that many of you are now abreast with the fact that Urban Enterprises Tulsa is currently going through a reinvention of our brand. And that being said, it is a very difficult time, but it is something that we will persevere with. And so everyone that happens to go through some adversities needs to have those anchors holding them up. And that being said, when I reached out to Amnoni and asked her if she would be on our show, unequivocally, she said she would. And so I want to thank you publicly for doing that for us.
Of course, most definitely. We do have to support each other.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, we all we got.
We are. That is absolutely correct.
Okay, let's get that right.
Yeah, absolutely right.
So now, for some of our viewers who are unaware or unfamiliar with you, Amnoni, tell us, where are you from?
I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston. How far is that from Roxbury?
Roxbury?
Uh-huh.
Oh, so I actually grew up in Roxbury.
Okay.
So it's not far at all. You know, Boston has all those small neighborhoods.
Right.
So I started in Dorchester and then I landed in Roxbury.
I've got some sorority sisters from Dorchester.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, right on. Okay.
So we already family.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see New Edition when you young? You don't even.
Yeah, I didn't see them.
Girl, you wouldn't know them. That's before your time. Okay, right on. So now, in addition to being a National Urban Fellow, you also was an intern in the White House during the Obama administration.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was a really good experience. It was something that I actually didn't even imagine ever happening. But back in 2014, I had an opportunity to write a policy report through the Congressional Coalition on Adoption Institute.
Okay.
And one of the things that I got to do was I got to write a policy report that was focused on something I was passionate about. And so I focused on how do we train foster parents in trauma-informed training.
Wow.
So that when young people enter into the system, they're not being dually traumatized. So I had an opportunity to present that report to both members of Congress and the White House Domestic Policy Council, and they were impressed with my report.
Wow.
And so they invited me to apply to be an intern. And I applied, and it was a beautiful experience. I got to work on a couple of different initiatives.
Right on.
One of those being Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day.
Yeah. Right
And as many people know or don't know, that young people that grow up in care don't get an opportunity to participate in that day.
Right.
So I was a liaison to help make that happen.
Oh, wow.
And I got a surprise by my supervisor who said, we're really impressed with the work you're doing. And so we want to know if you want to introduce First Lady Michelle Obama.
Wow.
And I was like, yes. They were like, can you have a speech written to us by Monday? This was Friday. I was like, yes, all plans canceled.
Wow.
So I got to do that. And that was just a really, really grounded and amazing experience.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's phenomenal. I also, I lived in D.C. for over 17 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I worked on Capitol Hill on both aisles of the table. I worked in the Republican side as well as the Democrat, the House and the Senate.
Yes.
So I'm very aware of a lot of the bureaucracy that you had to encounter.
Yes. Yes.
and trying to navigate your way around that loophole.
Most definitely. Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely it's not for the weak.
It isn't. It isn't. It is not. It is not. And that is something I had to learn very quickly.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let me say this. Your particular book, And you've already kind of introduced and given us a precursor about it being a book that deals with growing up in the foster care system. So what particularly motivated you to write this particular book?
Yeah, most definitely. So I did a lot of speaking engagements. I still do a lot of speaking engagements. And one of the things that people would say is, Amani, where's your book?
Yeah.
And I knew that I liked to write. I knew that I was a reader, but I just didn't necessarily know how that was all going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I actually lost my little sister.
Mm.
And she is actually one of the reasons why I wrote this book.
Okay.
The title, You Are the Prize, stems from her.
Wow.
She said to me, sis, always remember that you are the prize.
Right on.
And so I said, you know what? I'm going to turn this grief, I'm going to turn it into something that's going to help motivate and inspire other people.
Right on.
But I want to start with myself.
Yeah, right on.
I want to be able to start with sharing my story and my journey because I grew up in an environment where my story and my experiences were silenced.
Yeah, wow.
And so for that, I said, you know what? I want to give voice not just to my experience, but to the experiences of other people who are going through what I'm going through.
Right on.
Those who can relate, those who want to help.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this book with that, hoping that I would be able to inspire many more people.
Right on. And you just said that you went through some of those dark situations growing up. Would you be willing to share any of those experiences with our viewers?
Of course, most definitely. I think that first and foremost, the system is not in the best shape.
Come on.
One of the things that I pointed out in my book, and one of the things I wasn't able to necessarily think about as a kid, because oftentimes you blame families.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I had to think about was actually, how does the system perpetuate this?
Yeah, right on.
So I start with the system and how racism and oppression and how slavery has contributed to the foster care system.
Come on with it.
Because the foster care system was something that was supposed to be temporary, but has become a permanent fixture.
Yeah, right on.
So I talk about that, and then I talk about the breakdown of families.
Wow.
And so I grew up with two other siblings who I was very close with. And then when I got removed, I was removed not just from my mother, not just from my biological family, but I was removed from my siblings.
Wow.
And that was really, really hard because they were my protective factors. Yeah. They were my best friends. They were the people that I went through everything with.
Yeah, right on.
And so to have that being taken away in addition to my family was really hard.
Wow.
The other piece that I talk about is aging out.
Yeah.
I aged out and I didn't really have anywhere to go.
Yeah. And people don't realize that when you reach that certain age, what do you do after that? So tell us, what do you do immediately after you age out?
Yeah. Thankfully for me, I ended up going off to a college program.
Okay.
And because I was in that college program, that is what it helped keep me stable for a little bit.
Okay.
But while I was in that intensive college program, because I wasn't eligible to get to college just yet because I didn't have the right GPA.
Oh, wow.
And so while I was there is where I learned that my foster mom was no longer being paid for my bed and didn't want me to be there.
Come on.
So I came back with trash bags waiting for me on the porch. I didn't get to pack up my own things, and I just had to go and find somewhere else to go. And so for a lot of young people, I've been here working within the system here, and I've asked, what happens to these young people? And a lot of times they say that young people are going to youth homeless shelters.
Wow.
And so there is not really a stable path for these young people. And I think that what people don't really understand is oftentimes they want to blame families.
Yeah.
But once the system gets involved, the system is responsible.
It
becomes your responsibility.
Yes, it does.
And so you have to think about it from the start all the way to the finish.
Right.
And so you have to have a plan in place. And sometimes people don't have a plan in place.
I think a lot of times people don't seem to understand that in America, okay, we have a large population of homeless youth in this country. And so that being said, do you find, or did you happen to find in any of your research, any of these children that might have been confronted with sex trafficking because they were foster children?
Oh, most definitely. The majority of young people that have been trafficked have come from the foster care system. And to also be a little bit frank, my little sister was trafficked out of the system.
Oh, wow.
But she was trafficked out of a group home.
Oh, wow.
And so you have people who are waiting at the group homes.
That's heavy.
Waiting for these kids. And so that's something. I was actually speaking at a conference yesterday talking about the adultification of Black girls in the system.
Wow.
And one of the things that somebody wrote in the chat is sex trafficking is something that's really silenced and people don't talk about. But a lot of times these young people are coming from the system. And then I also heard that here in Oklahoma, it's a huge problem.
Yeah. And I think that, and if I'm incorrect, please correct me, because I am not above reproach, is that I think the biggest issue of it being here in Oklahoma is because we have so many highways that connect people to come in to the area, snatch up people and take them out, because we are just surrounded by so many avenues in terms of the highway system in order to do that. And I don't know, would you find that to be correct or incorrect? Or?
I'm not even going to say if it's correct or
Okay.
incorrect, but what I'm going to say is that it makes sense.
Okay.
It sounds logical, and you've been here longer than I have been, so I'm going to trust you on that. And it makes sense.
Wow.
So I could say that could be the case too.
Wow. And this was something that based upon what you just mentioned, you know, a lot of the kids that are in the foster care system, they have those children that are divided into a bifurcation. You have so-called the regular kind of child, and then you have those that are considered to be therapeutic children, where they have to take psychotropic medication. In your research, did you find that there was a difference in those children's upbringing, in terms of families really wanting to be proactive and progressively responsible to help these children, or were they just in it because of the money?
Are you talking about the foster parents?
Right.
I'm actually not completely sure about that, but what I will say is that if kids are in the home and they are taking psychotropic medications, and if they are in therapeutic homes, foster parents are getting paid more.
That's true.
So it's more of an incentive.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true. But I guess I'm wondering, are there any of those parents that are doing it ethically, or do you find that there are large populations of those parents that just want to get the money because they are paid much more than the regular foster children? So do you think that there is a push for people to say, hey, I can get paid if I can get 8 or 9 of these kids in my house that are therapeutic and just want to take the money and not really be there to help them in the system?
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but what I will say is that the things that I think about is that you think about the structural part of it, and how people who are typically coming to help these young people, who are they being supported by? Who are they being held by? How is the system helping them in their approach of working with these kids? So oftentimes you have parents who are coming into the home and working with the young people, but don't necessarily have the training or the tools necessary to be able to support them. I will say that based on my experience, I did feel that foster parents were in it for the money. I have heard that other young people that have been in the system have also felt the same way. I also have heard other opportunities and other experiences where kids have also had a good time in their homes, but that just wasn't my experience.
And I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to ask, in your research, did you find very many respondents that experienced similar experiences as yours?
Oh, most definitely. First of all, the majority of young people that enter into the system, they come into the system because of neglect and not because of abuse. But when you look at the population, and then also the number of young people that come into the system are Black and brown, they are disproportionate. Even though there's more white children in the system, there's disproportionately are brown and Black kids. And so with that, there comes a lot of just things that a lot of bias that happens, that takes place. And so for me, it's just been about how do we ensure that people that are coming to the system can really train and be well aware and know how to support us.
So now let me ask you, Amnoni. Wow, this is really powerful. You're providing some information that I was not aware of, and I really appreciate what you're sharing. Let me ask you: do you happen to think that when we're dealing with a lot of these childhood traumas, what I'm finding is that your book is teaching our people how to survive in this trauma and recognize their worth. When you speak with young children or even former foster children, what is the success rate of them being viable citizens in this country and not on some type of illicit drugs just to try to survive?
I will say that the way that I try to explain it is that I believe that every young person who has been through the system is a survivor. Is a winner, is successful for the very fact that they've survived the system. I would say that what I have noticed is that a lot of times young people are not necessarily being supported. and because they're not necessarily being supported, I will say there are some that do turn to drugs. There are some that experience homelessness. There are some that experience suicide ideation. And so I would say that 3 to 5% of young people who are in care graduate from college.
Okay.
And that's by the age of 28. That's 3 to 5%. And I will also say that there also hasn't been even more recent research on that, because I do believe that there are more success stories out there
Yeah.
than we also lead to believe.
Right.
I think that in it, just as much as the media paints Black and brown people to be who they are not, I would say that it's the same with young people in the child welfare system. There's a lot of stereotypes. There's a lot of assumptions
Yeah.
that they're not able to thrive from those experiences or their circumstances. And it's really about having somebody in their life that can look out for them.
Wow. Right.
That says that, you know what, I know that even though the things that you've gone through, that in spite of what you have gone through, that you are the prize.
Yeah. Right.
And that also healing is a lifelong journey.
Right on. Right on. Let me ask you this. Writing this particular book, you know, it's almost a blueprint of an expose in a way, even though although you were very transparent and candid about your personal journey. Did you happen to have anyone in your life that tried to prevent you from writing this particular book, exposing the system, if you will, in the discoveries that you came about? Did you have anyone to try to, warn you to not put this kind of information out there?
I actually did not.
Okay, right.
And that was really good. But
right
I would say that what essentially was taking place was more so the experiences that you had been denied.
Okay.
Had been pushed under the rug.
Wow.
Let's not talk about it. It happened this way, not that way. So I would say there was just more so gaslighting in terms of the experiences that I faced versus about me writing the book. I had decided I was going to write the book. I would say that it was a really hard process to write the book.
Okay.
It was really hard trying to also put the book out because I was fearful of those very things that you talk about.
Yeah.
I will say that one of the things that I have noticed is that child welfare agencies that I've approached to about using this book as a training tool to be able to give to their foster parents.
Wonderful.
People haven't really jumped to the occasion of doing that.
Oh, wow.
So, but I've seen that they have been really stuck on having books written by, white people, doctors and, things like that.
Come on.
But not necessarily from a person who has had lived experience.
Wow.
But I think it speaks to the larger issue in general when you talk about connecting with organizations, when they say that they want to hear a perspective of lived experience. Oftentimes they want to control the narrative.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so you have to just stay true to really what it is that you want to get out there.
Right on.
But the reality of it is that this is my experience.
Yeah, right on.
This is my story. And I deserve to share it just as much as anyone else gets to live.
Right on. Have you had any other contact with your family or any of your other siblings? Have you had a chance to not only just contact but have a reconciliation with your family?
I would say that that's a hard one.
Okay.
Somebody asked me this question yesterday about my mom, and I would hope to see reconciliation in the future. She did purchase a copy of my book.
Okay.
And I will say one of the things I am grateful for is my mom, is that the fact that she said to me, she said, I bought it because I want to support you. If you don't want me to read it, I won't read it. But if you would like me to read it, I will read it.
Okay.
And for her to be able to give me that agency and choice meant the world.
That's empowering.
It was very empowering.
That's empowering. Wow.
It was.
That's heavy.
It was.
Heavy. A lot of people, being in Oklahoma, this is, not only the Bible Belt, but in this area, not only will people put you in hell and gasoline draws if you don't believe in the way they believe when it comes to religion, but they also are very family oriented in this area. And so a lot of people get the misconception that all women are going to be natural nurturer mothers, and that's not always the case.
Yeah.
And so I think what you mentioned about with your mom, I think it's that's very empowering, and I salute the fact that she wanted to even ask your opinion on that, because it was going to, I would assume, reflect about what she had to do to have your outcome in life.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And
That's a brave journey to take.
it is. And one of the things that I wanted her, and I hope that she will understand, is that you know, we all have been harmed by white supremacy.
Yeah, right on.
White supremacy culture.
Yeah.
Just as much as I grew up in the system didn't exist when she was alive.
Okay.
Or she's still alive, but so the things that she experienced and the things that my grandmother experienced were all generational.
That's right.
And where does the generation lead us?
There you
it
go.
lead us back to slavery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the breakdown of families.
There you go, honey.
And how families have not been, Black families particularly, have not been made to be nurturing.
Yes.
That has also been stripped away.
Yes, absolutely.
And so what I'm trying to help her understand is that even though I write about my experiences and things that she did to me, I'm trying to speak to a larger problem, a structural problem in our society.
That's powerful.
You know what I'm saying?
That's powerful.
So
yeah, right on. Well, I tell you this, I'm so thrilled to have had this opportunity to meet you.
Most definitely, thank you.
I want to make sure that our readers know once again that the book is entitled "You Are the Prize." Seeing yourself beyond the imperfections of your trauma. That being said, where can we purchase your book? Where can our viewers purchase your book?
Most definitely. Thank you so much. So you all can purchase my book on Amazon.com. If you type in "You Are the Prize," it should pop right up. So that's something that I would love for you all to do. And then when you all read it, the other thing that I would ask is if you can share it with your followers, if you can share it with people in your network, people that you think may benefit from this story. And also, if you're able to write a review, that would be also helpful.
Fantastic. Miss Amnoni Myers.
Thank you.
From the Rockaberry. From the Boston, Massachusetts. I want to thank you for joining us on Black Business Spotlight. And I want to thank all of our viewers watching, again, here in Tulsa as well as around the globe. And if you have a business, organization, or an upcoming event, please make sure that you get in touch with us so that we can highlight your brand and your upcoming event on our show. Feel free to give us a call at 918-467-5630. And again, thank you for watching. And at the end of the day, we want to always remind you to always support Black business, Black authors, Black events, because at the end of the day, baby, we are all that we got. And it's important, it is imperative that we be on Black code, Black first, Black last, and Black code for the rest of our Black lives. I am Miss Nikki, and on behalf of Ray One, thank you for watching Black Business Spotlight. Ashe and Black Power to all of the Black people.
Thank you.